And I'm going to start out by saying that, well, happy Friday. Hooray for weekends. Let's see. I sent an email to the class yesterday. I sent it in the afternoon. So if you didn't get it, please check your email at some point. So that you can stay caught up on all announcements. This projector is not working for some reason. So if you want to. Anyway, so that is the number one announcement. I had mentioned that we would maybe be doing class on Zoom on Monday. I was supposed to be going to Atlanta Sunday through Tuesday, but I'm not. So class is as usual next week. And other than that, all of the due dates are in that email I sent. So please make sure that you keep up with all of the due dates. Cool. Questions? Yeah.
Could we go over, wait, which assignment is due today?
So I was about to go through a Venn diagram question and a part of a tree diagram question. This the one that's due today is class activity number 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Were you going to ask me to do a Venn, a tree? Okay, so what I did is I've made up similar questions. They're just slightly different. Which part in number 3 were you interested in? See, oh, that's the same as somebody else had. So, okay. So, what I'm going to do, Kaden, in terms of going over things, is I've already made up a different Venn diagram and a different tree diagram. So I'll do ones very similar. So here's the Venn diagram that I'm going to play with here. So I was online with a student this morning who's an athlete. And so I thought, okay, I'll make my Venn diagram look like this. H stands for home games. W stands for winning games. And I just randomly put numbers in here. And that's supposed to be an 11. Okay. So essentially there are 29 total home games. There are 31 total wins. Do you agree that they lost a total of 20 games? Right? Oh, sorry. They lost a total of 18 games. Excuse me, I covered up the wrong one. Right? You cover up the wins. They had a total of 20 away games. Y'all with me here? Okay. So I think that you had one on your homework somewhat similar to this. So what if I want you to find the probability that it was a home game if they won? What's the word here? If. When you have this conditional word, if, it means that you are reducing your sample space down. Okay, so you always reduce your sample space down to whatever immediately comes after your conditional phrase. So we are reducing our sample space down to all the games that they won. That means we're only considering those games. How many games is that? 31 games. Of those 31 games, we want to find the probability it was a home game. Well, of these 31 games, which ones were the home ones? The 22, because they intersected the H. Okay. What if, on the other hand, we want to find the probability that they didn't win if it was a home game? All right, now what are we reducing our sample space down to? We are reducing it down to home games. That's my H circle. That's 29. Of those 29 games that were home, we're interested in the ones that they did not win. How many is that? 7. So remember, with these Venn diagrams, when you have a conditional, what you need to do is first reduce your sample space. Cool? Awesome. All right. The next one I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a tree diagram and I'll tell you what it means. And I just randomly put in numbers. So these are people from Montana. These are people not from Montana. The S are people who like to ski. The S complement are people who do not like to ski. Okay. So from there, what I want to ask you are 2 conditional questions. If the person is from Montana, find the probability they like to ski. And then I'm going to contrast that with if the person likes to ski, find the probability they are from Montana. Notice it's the same 2 events, but we in the wow, so weird. Like, all the way over here. So notice in the first one, though, we're assuming that they're from Montana, and we want to find the probability they like to ski. Whereas on the other hand, we're assuming they like to ski, and we want to find the probability that they're from Montana. So you see how there's this bebop. Okay. Cool. All right. So again, we always reduce our sample space down to whatever comes immediately after our conditional phrase. If the person is from Montana, aren't we assuming we're right here already? Okay. If they're from Montana, do we know the probability that they like to ski? Yeah, what is it? 0.7. Notice that's all you need to put. We're already assuming we're right here and we have those conditional probabilities. So remember, when you're assuming the inner branch and want the outer branch, you can just read off those probabilities. And that's why I smile, because it's not as much work. I like that. All right. On the other hand, now we're assuming that a person likes to ski. And we want to find the probability that they're from Montana. Okay, so what is this one going to look like? Well, this is going to be a bit different here because we need to, when we consider an outer branch, we need to consider the entire branch if we're not already assuming we made it part way. So we're reducing our sample space down to the people who like to ski. Well, do you agree that they could be from Montana and like to ski? Or they could be from outside of Montana and like to ski? Now we've reduced our sample space down to these 2 scenarios. We just have to ask ourselves, which branch are we interested in? Are we interested in them being from Montana or not from Montana? In this case, from Montana. Oops. I was trying to write too many things at once. So you take the Montana branch. You with me there? Cool. You ready? Okay. So please be sure you hand in this activity 5 to me, either in person here or send it to me via email. And that would be awesome. Anyone who's here today who has not gotten like papers back, who's physically given me papers, I would love to hand them back to you. So that would be great if you could grab them. So what I want to do now is I want to jump back to lesson 9. We did the substance of lesson 9 in class on Wednesday. Okay, so we talked about the 3 measures of center. We talked about the mean, which is the average as we know it. We talked about the median, which is the middle value. So it's the value such that 50% of your data is larger and 50% of your data is smaller. And we also talked about the mode, which is the most frequently occurring data point. Okay. Excuse me. So what I want to do is take you through several examples and show you how to push the buttons on your calculator. This is nothing that you have to do by hand. Okay, you can use your calculator. In fact, once we get to lesson 10, you're really gonna want to use your calculator. So what I'm going to do today is just show you the buttons to push. I've brought 2 calculators with me today. I've brought this kind that we are distributing free of charge for this semester for everybody, and I'll show you how to use this. And I'm also aware that a lot of people have this kind of calculator, so I brought one of these too. Okay, so you know, I don't really see myself as teaching people how to push buttons on a box, you know, like, but I want to show you how to work these things so that you can do these computations. Okay, I tend not to be very computation heavy on tests with these sorts of questions for the simple reason that we're going to have to enter lists into our calculator. And oh my goodness, you know, it's so easy to make typos when you enter lists. So I have these computation questions on your online homework, but really what I ask you in class is to understand the meaning of what each of these things are. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I'm going to go through 3 different examples that kind of give us all the different ways that you're going to be presented with the data. Cool. So suppose I have this bunch of data. I have 80, 92, 85, 94, 42, 76, 100, 96, 92, and 64. And what I want us to do is find the mean, the median, and the mode. Now, some calculators do the mode, other calculators don't, but the mode is one that we can pretty easily get when it's a tame-looking data set. Okay, remember the mode is the most frequently occurring data point. Do any of these data points occur more than once? Yeah, talk to me. Which one? 92 does. Does anyone else occur more than one time here? No, so our mode is 92. Okay, literally, it's the one that occurs most frequently. All right, so now what we are going to do is we are going to learn how to enter these lists in each of our calculators. Okay, so I'm going to start out with, oh my gosh, I can't remember, I believe I forgot my reading glasses. Okay, this is so funny. You have to be like, whoa. Okay, I'm going to start with this one just for no good reason. So for those of you who have a TI-83 or TI-84 calculator, this is how you're going to do it. Okay. Number one, I want to re-emphasize, you're not going to have to enter lists on your test. This is just like online homework sorts of things. Okay. So you have this button that's called stat. So TI-83, 84. You hit stat and notice we're at edit. That's where we want to be. So stat, oopsie, let me write it down here. And we want to edit. Okay, notice we're already at edit, so I'm going to hit enter. Now, do you see how I already have lists in my calculator? It's because I've done these computations a couple times before. Okay, so, and if you don't have lists, you're about to. So you're going to need to know how to clear them. So I'm going to tell you to clear your lists. With this calculator, what you do is you put your cursor on the list name, press clear, and then enter. So literally, I bring my cursor up to my list name, I hit clear, and then enter. And voila, it disappears. And now I'm going to go to my L2 and I'm going to hit clear, enter. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to enter our list of data. This is the hard part because this is the part where you can make typos really easily. But literally what I'm going to do is enter my data. So I hit 80, enter, 92, 85. And I won't talk your ear off through these. I'm just going to hope I don't make a typo. All right. So I entered all my data points. I just put them in and hit enter. Okay. So you enter your list. You're going to be putting your data values in your L1 list. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you that in a couple of these, we're going to have frequency tables. When you have your frequency table, you're going to put those frequencies in L2. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. Okay. So we entered our data. We want to get out of there, so we hit quit. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press stat again. I want it to do some calculations for me. So I'm going to go over to calc. I want to do one variable stats. So one var or var stats. So I'll just hit enter.
How did you get back out of it? Quit?
Yeah. Yeah. So you hit second mode to quit.
Second mode. Okay.
Thanks for asking. So then I hit stat again. I go over to calc. And I'm going to be at one var stats. That's all we're going to be doing here. Now I want to do one var stats just to my L1 list. Now from here, what your calculator says depends upon the calculator. Notice my L1 is right above my 1. My L2 is right above my 2. Okay. So with this guy, what you're going to do is it's list L1. And if you have a calculator that then says FREQ for frequency, we're going to skip that right now because we're not putting anything in. We don't have a frequency table. So to get L1, what I'm going to hit is second one. And then I hit enter. So how do we read this? Well, we're going to learn to read these things really, really well. At this point, what I'm going to tell you is this X bar is your mean. Okay. And if you want to find your median, what you're going to have to do is scroll down, and you see how further down it you have MED? And we get 88.5. That's it. Okay. Those of you who have this TI-36X Pro, you're going to be doing a similar thing. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So here's this data button. Okay. So for those of you who have this TI-36X Pro, you want to go to your data button. And what should come up immediately are these lists. And you're going to enter the lists just the same. Again, you're going to use L1 for your data. And when it's relevant, we're going to use this L2 for our frequency. Okay. Now I'm just going to push some buttons because it's something I'm really good at. I'm just kidding. But anyway, if you want to clear a list in this calculator, so to clear a list in this calculator, what you do is you hit the data button twice. And then do you see how it says clear L1? Or you can go down to clear L2. So I'm just going to hit enter and notice it cleared that data. But now I'm going to go and I'm going to enter this exact same data set. Just so that everyone with this calculator gets the same sensation. So we put in 80, 92, 85, 94, etc. Cool. So I entered my data, and again, to get out of there, you hit second mode to quit. That's always kind of fun. All right, now to do the computations in this calculator, you're going to hit your second data button, because if you look at it, it says in blue, it says stat reg distre. So you're going to hit second data. And what we want to do is we want to go down here to 1 var stats. So I'm going to arrow down to 1 var stats, and I'm going to hit enter. Notice it says data L1. Now here it says FRQ for frequency. We're not entering a frequency list, so you just leave it at the 1. So just hit enter until it calculates it. And notice here is your X bar, our mean of 82.1. And there is our median of 88.5. Okay. Now what I want to do is show you a couple other ways that you're going to see this data presented to you. In fact, the next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a frequency table. So suppose, and I'm just making these up. Suppose this is our table. Now, what does this mean? It means that the data point 8 happened 4 times. The data point 10 happened twice, etc. Okay. When you have a frequency table, reading off your mode is totally sweet. Okay, because all you have to do is look at the frequency. Which number here is the highest? Isn't 7 the highest? And so what data point occurred most frequently? 3. Okay, so now we'll write mean and we'll write median. All righty. So we can go to one of our calculators. I'm going to go to this one first. I'm going to hit clear L1. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my data in L1, and then I'm going to enter my frequency in L2. And again, the hardest part of this is not making typos. Okay. For those of you who have this TI calculator, I'm going to do stat, edit. I got to clear my L1 list. And now I'm going to enter my L1 list and my L2 list. In both of those cases, once your lists are entered, you hit second mode to quit. All right. So with this TI-84, you're going to hit stat. You're going to go over to calc. And we want 1 var stats. Now, some people on this, it might say data list, and then it might say frequency list. Notice mine doesn't. But for the data list, you're going to put in L1, and the frequency list, you're going to do L2. If yours comes up like this, you're just going to hit L1, comma, L2. And then you're going to hit enter. Notice we got our mean to be about 5.95. And our median was 6. I can do the same thing over here, but to do my computations here, I hit second data. I again go down to 1 var stats. Notice my data's in L1, so I'm going to hit enter. But now I'm going to go over to L2 for my frequency list. And notice we get the exact same mean and the exact same median. Isn't technology awesome? Sometimes, other than when I got all mad at this projector. Isn't this section sweet relief? Okay, one more sort of thing you're given. Okay. This is another sort of frequency table that you could be given, but now your data's listed in intervals. Okay, so the question to ask is, what do we do? So suppose I was looking at the ages of people in the room. Obviously not this room. Simply because I don't think we have this many people in the room. So what we're saying is there's one person in the room who's less than or equal to 9 years old. There's 7 people in the room who are ages 10 through 19, 5 people in the room in their 20s, and 2 people in the room in their 30s. Okay. Now, the thing is, it is the case that you enter your data in L1 and your frequency in L2. But the question is, we know what frequencies we're going to enter. Those are just straight up. What do you enter when your data is given in intervals? So when intervals are given for the data, what you want to do is find the midpoint of each interval and use that value in L1. So if you're wondering, how do you find the midpoint? I'm about to tell you. What do? You take each endpoint, add them up, and divide by 2. So we're going to get 4.5. 10 plus 19 divided by 2 is 14.5. 20 plus 29 over 2 is 24.5. And 30 plus 39 over 2 is 34.5. Now notice, this is not going to be a precise calculation, but we weren't even given precise values anyway. So, we can be pretty good with the fact that we're just taking the midpoint of that interval. You with me there? Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to do this on one calculator. I'm going to do it on my TI-36. So I need to clear L1. But now I need to hit data again, and I need to go down and clear L2. So for my data, I do 4.5, 14.5, 24.5, 34.5. And now I enter my frequencies. Oh, but first I have to go over to my L2. So I got to clear L1 again. Okay, let me get this straight. So 4.5, 14.5, 24.5, 34.5. Now I'm going to go to L2 and list my frequencies. Okay. So now once I have them, I'm going to quit. I'm going to hit second data. I'm doing 1 var stats. I have my L1 list, and I also have a frequency list in L2. So I need to tell my calculator that. So here my mean, or X bar, is 19.8. And the median age is 14.5. What's my mode? Well, who is the highest frequency here? 10 to 19, right? It has a frequency of 7. So depending upon what they want, you can either put 10 to 19 or you can put that value for the mode. You okay here? Cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is share my screen. So we're now in Unit 3 statistics, measures of center. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is assign lesson 9 online homework to be due a week from today. Oh my goodness, my friends, we've almost made it through the month of October. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to show you on your lesson 9 homework. Notice it's short, okay? Here, find your mean, median, and mode. This is where you just enter your data, use your calculator. Number 2, they want you to find your mean, median, and mode, and then say which one's the biggest. Number 3, notice you have a frequency table. So you're going to enter L1, L2, and then find your mean, your median, and your mode. All right. Here, you're going to enter this. This is a big list. Sorry. But you're going to enter this entire list. Find your mean, median, and mode. Don't clear the list. Go back in and add another data point. And then compute your mean, median, and mode. And then they want you to do an analysis. Because notice, look how young all these people are. And I'm saying that relatively speaking. And then we throw a 45-year-old in. That's going to change things. At least some things. And then here's another mean, median, and mode. Like, do you dig that this is like pushing buttons in a calculator? Okay. So we have 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just start lesson 10. And this is good, big stuff. Lesson 10 is awesome. Once we're done with lesson 11, we then take our next test. Just so you know, we're going to be in these sections for a little bit, but we're going to have another test coming up at some point soon. Okay, so I'm just going to motivate this, and then I'm going to leave you with a really interesting cliffhanger for the rest of the weekend. So lesson 10, again, in the end, you don't have to do any funky formulas by hand. You're going to push the exact same buttons in the calculator we just did. We're just going to be looking at some other data values in there. Okay. But what this section is called is measures of variation. And I have just a really nice way to introduce this, and then we'll leave it. Okay. So far, we've seen that we have 3 measures of center, and the most common one that we use is the mean. The mean gives us a pretty decent measure of what we call central tendency. And it's nice because it includes all of the data points, but I claim it doesn't tell us much about the spread of the data. So people very often ask me, well, what's the class average? I'll look at the class average, but you know, the average can really be affected by outlying values. So the average gives you some information, but it doesn't give you a ton. And let me give you an example to show. Suppose I had 3 classes that I taught, and they each only had 5 students. I'd be a total scam with grading, okay? But suppose I gave a test to my 5 students in class 1, and they all got 50s. pretty consistently not knowing as much material as I would hope. Okay, suppose in class 2, there was a 40, there was a 50, there was a 30, there was a 70, and there was a 60. And suppose in class 3, someone got a 10, someone got a 50, someone got an 85, somebody got a 90, and somebody got a 15. Okay. What I want to tell you is these 3 classes look very different in terms of their test scores. But if I was just like, all I care about is the class average, guess what? The mean, the class average of all of these 3 classes is exactly the same. So I'm going to ask myself, how indicative is the mean in each of these situations? Well, in this first class, I would say that it's pretty gosh darn indicative. It's exactly what everybody got. So here I would look at my class average and be like, yeah, this really gives me an idea as to what happened in the class. You with me there? With this one, I claim it gives me a pretty good idea. Notice my data values are a little more spread out, but they're not that spread out. But in this class, does the fact that my class average was 50 really tell me much about my individual students? No, I claim not at all. I mean, because there's a couple people in the class who totally knew what was happening. And then there's a couple people in the class who totally did not have the opportunity to show what was going on. So it really only related with one. So what I'm going to say, and I'll pick up here next time, is that all 3 classes have the exact same average, but there's really different things going on in each class. So what we want to know is, okay, fine, we can compute the average of a big bunch of data, but how indicative is it really of what our data set is giving us? Okay, and again, in some cases, it's extremely indicative, and this like never happens, but it's always fun to show an extreme. You know, so this is why I take the average when I compute them with a grain of salt. And then I also ask myself, how indicative is it? And what we're going to do on Monday in class is come up with a measure so that we can then say, should we use this mean to sum up the general vibe of what happened, or should we not? Cool, huh? Awesome. All right. Well, don't forget to hand in or submit that class activity 5. I will have the next one to hand out on Monday. It'll be due on Friday of next week. Have an awesome weekend, everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to come over there?